Were you a leader during the COVID-19 pandemic, and did you struggle to keep your team on track and delivering results? Yeah, you're not alone in that. As a matter of fact, I was in that group as well. So today we're going to talk about how to do that next time we get a big disruption like the COVID-19 pandemic. And there will be a next time. There is always a next time. We just don't know what it is yet. So today we're going to talk about adaptive leadership. Now, before I do that, I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Jeff LaSalle. I'm your leadership coach. And if you would be so kind to go down below and hit the subscribe button, we'd really appreciate it, and we'll keep the videos coming. Okay, so adaptive leadership. Adaptive leadership is all about preparing your team to handle the complete disruptions of something unprecedented that undoubtedly will happen again. Adaptive leadership has really been around as a term or a thing since 2009. That's when it first starts coming into the literature. However, in reality, adaptive leadership as a concept has been around for as long as management theory has been. And it's really about anticipating the next big change and then making sure that your team is ready to handle that change and succeed. Now, while we all expect changes are going to continue to come at us, most of these changes are modest. However, there are some changes that are just completely disruptive. The COVID-19 pandemic was one. The Great Recession in 2009, where the housing market crashed overnight, that's another one. And we could go back in history and pick them out. There's a steady stream of these sorts of changes. And the thing that makes these changes significant is that they are truly unprecedented. Now, I know we hear a lot about that term unprecedented in our news these days, as news anchors like to just blow things out of proportion. But these changes are truly unprecedented and disruptive. And therefore, it follows that there's no expert to turn to help you figure out what to do. I mean, take a look at the COVID-19 pandemic. Public policy was shifting as policymakers learned more, as scientists learned more. It was constantly moving and, of course, being polarized and politicized, which left management and leadership of corporate entities kind of stuck in the middle. Indeed, there was strong polarization from both ends, and so management or leadership was really flailing, trying to figure out exactly what to do. We could listen to government entities, we could listen to any array of experts from any corner of the spectrum of political opinions you wanted to find, you could find, but we had to figure out the best path forward. And in many cases, each operation was left to its own to figure this out and blaze a trail. Your team needs to be ready for this sort of disruption. What can we do to prepare our teams? Well, number one, we have to get better at anticipating. And the way we anticipate is we get better at scanning our environment for these disruptions. So we get early indicators as best we can, so we have a little bit more time to respond. Secondly, we really need to make sure that we're not the only ones scanning. Now, if we're successful at using an empathetic style or a style of leadership that is more democratic and more empowering, great. We're going to have a lot more eyeballs out there scanning the environment and looking for changes, or at least taking note of things and raising potential issues. Next, we really need to be constantly pushing this concept of lifelong learning, which really, to me, doesn't mean going to university classes and whatnot. It means having an open mind and being receptive to information from different sources that you can then analyze for validity. In this way, you're making a more consistent scan of your environment. Now, also, that same open-mindedness, as well as a diverse team, means that you're going to have different opinions and perspectives come up that can be debated and considered. An open mind will let you listen empathetically to really understand different perspectives and figure out what the best path forward is. Ultimately, remember, in these sorts of situations, there is no real expert to turn to and say, what do I do? Give me the checklist. That doesn't exist. So what we need to do is we need to be open-minded. We need to be raising all these different possibilities of paths, having a good discussion, an open-minded discussion, and then choosing our path forward. Now, that alone, again, isn't going to be good enough. We need to have a good, fast-fail, risk-taking culture as well. Now, right now, my safety and quality colleagues are just climbing the walls hearing me talk about risk-taking, because for years in manufacturing, we talk about do not deviate, follow the procedure. We must do it the same every time. And yes, in the cases of safety and quality, we don't want to deviate. Back up to general leadership principles and organizational development and policies, though, we need to enact a culture of risk-taking and fast fail. So in particular, if we don't know that something is going to be a successful path or not, but our quick gut check risk assessment tells us that this is a viable path forward that doesn't present really severe consequences, then we should trial it. And if we trial something, that means putting the minimal effort in to see if this path works and yields fruit. If it does, we continue, we invest more, and we go. If not, we abandon it. Any cost put in is sunk cost. We abandon it. It's no good. Choose another path. Go forward. This really becomes a culture, a way of doing things. And it's so important. Now, one of the mistakes that we make very often is we say we're going to trial something, we say we're going to pilot something, but we sink a lot of resources into that. And then when we should let it go, we're very reluctant to let it go because we have so much of ourselves invested in that path already. That's a mistake. We need to use a fast fail, very small commitment type of mentality to see if certain paths work. If they do, follow. If not, abandon, move on to the next path. So all of this really sounds a lot like an empathetic leadership style, with the twist that we're really emphasizing anticipation of changes and doing what we can to formally increase our scanning of the environment to gain us time in detection of these changes that are coming at us, but also implementing a risk-taking culture and philosophy along with a fast-fail, trial culture and methodology. So that's adaptive leadership in a nutshell. Think of it as empathetic leadership or servant leadership with a twist of risk-taking in there, and mix it all up in a blender and you've got adaptive leadership. If you would be so kind, hit the like button and the subscribe button down below, and we'll keep the videos coming.